your work as an activist was centered around the liberation of African Americans. This is my interpretation. Centered around the liberation of African Americans while living a life for women's activism. So your day-to-day walk. You talk about Negro defiance, you talk about oppression, you talk about you having to prove that you were black at one point during one of the rallies. You even wrote a liberation pledge. Do you feel that the work that you all were engaged in at that time has come to fruition, looking back? Or is there more work to be done? Will there ever be a satisfaction to that level of activism?
I think there's tremendous satisfaction in it because I know that we moved things forward. I arrived in Atlanta in 1969, and that was like 4 years after the Voting Rights Act. And I grew up in Detroit, so it didn't really dawn on me that it was only 4 years and how little time that was until many years later. And then I understood much better why people were so excited about Maine, why people were so excited, because all of that had been denied for so long. So that I really understood that and was very pleased to be a part of that motion. But I think that a lot of us felt like once we had the right to vote, we had finished, and we could go home. And that's so not true. That is so not true. We elected a wonderful president, and then we kind of left him out there. Then we came back in 4 years and said, good job, but we elected him again. And I know he must feel sometime like, where are y'all once I'm elected? I need you to vote in the state elections. I need you to vote in the elections that we've got coming up. I need you to vote in the midterm elections. Think how different Congress would be if all of the people who voted for President Obama had come out again for those midterm elections and voted for people who would support the programs he did. But we tend to go home. We like the presidential race because it's exciting and it's everybody.
It's national.
So we don't understand that a lot of these laws that are being passed now that are devastating to women's health, that are devastating to citizens, and programs that are a safety net for living human beings who need to eat, that all of those programs are being cut back at the state level. And our state legislature is a sin. Our governor is ridiculous. So I think that level of activism is important. People got mad at the governor when we had that bad weather and people got stuck on the freeway. That was like 1 day, 2 days. The governor is cutting out food stamps, health care. They won't sign for people to get health care, Medicaid extension, none of that. So that we have a limited memory sometimes of how important it is. You can't just send the president and hope for the best, because then you get the Tea Party taken over. Then you get Governor Deal taken over. So that it's really important. I don't mean to start preaching.
No, preach. That's what we're here for. It's beating you out. We are here.
It's really necessary for all of us who understand this to make sure that everybody is registered to vote. That on election day you take people to the polls with you. Even if you only take one person, just call your friend and say, look, I'm voting at such and such a time. Come vote with me. Vote absentee if you're going to be out of town. But we have to do it, because otherwise we dishonor the memory of all of those people who went through everything for us to get your right to vote. And it's like we owe it to these people to do it. And I don't mean me, I mean people like Fannie Lou Hamer, I mean people like John Lewis, I mean people who risked their lives. I was in Detroit, on the west side of Detroit, living in the circle of my family and very protected. I was not in Ruleville, Mississippi, trying to stand up to a plantation owner and say, no, I'm going to vote, and have them take you to jail and make the black prisoners in there beat you almost to death. I wasn't there. That was Fannie Lou Hamer. John Lewis, you can't look at a picture of people getting beaten up and thrown in jail and all that without seeing our Congressman John Lewis. Every single time. He's like the walking voice of all of that sacrifice. And it doesn't make sense. This is his district. I'm proud every time I vote for him, but I'm proud every time I vote because I'm a citizen, and it took me a long time to feel like a citizen of this country. I was raised by black nationalists. We didn't pledge allegiance to the flag. We didn't sing the American national anthem. We had our own flag, our own national anthem. We had a black Madonna. We didn't have any of that. But it took me a long time, and I will say truthfully that I didn't feel like an American until Barack Obama got elected. You people from Detroit are like in your own country. in your country, but it didn't feel like my country. And we drove across the country soon after Barack got elected the first time. And the whole way, I had never driven across the country because I was nervous about what's between Chicago and LA. So we're driving across the country, and we'd be in these little towns and going across Texas, little tiny towns and all that. And my brain was saying, he's the president out here too. And that's the top layer of it, but the second layer of it is some of the people in those little towns voted for him. I remember when he won the primary in South Dakota, and I know y'all said, that's what I said. How many black folks did imagine black people, A, living in South Dakota, and that there could be enough white people in South Dakota who would vote for him.
Right.
He won North Dakota, and I'm saying, okay, you mean there's black folks in North Dakota? It took me a long time to get to the moment where I said, you know what this means? This means that there are American people who are not African American people who are voting for the best candidate. So he was so clearly a superior candidate. That's the moment when I said to myself, well, okay, I'll claim this country then. I'm an American person. That means I got two national anthems because I'm not giving up the black. I got two flags. I got two ways that I can approach this country, and I know that you can be a member of a specific ethnic group and also know that you are deeply rooted in and reflective of your country. And I think that's the thing that the Tea Party and all them are trying to hold back. When all of us who are not that small group of people who want everybody else to suffer while they make everything for themselves, when we all look around and see each other and say, you're trying to make us hate immigrants, they're just people trying to make a living and feed their families. You're trying to make us hate poor people. We are poor people. What are you talking about? What are you talking about in terms of white people over here, black people over here? There's lots of progressive white people. So that it really, I think, is up to us to keep claiming this country, keep speaking of it as our country, keep working on it till it gets to be the country we want it to be. Because if we don't do it, the Tea Party is sure going to do it. So we have to.
And they have a vision.
They have a
memory of what they want. No.
Midterm elections, they're going to be right there. State elections, they're going to be right there. All of those elections. So if they're there, that's fine. They're Americans too. But we are the ones who don't show up. We got to show up because there's more of us than there are of the people who want to hold back progress. Otherwise, we wouldn't have elected Michelle Obama's wonderful husband twice. Don't even get me started talking about her and her daughters walking on the train.
That was
so
amazing. It was amazing.
Amazing.
And I think that we forget how impactful image is.
Exactly.
Just having